Hi, today we have a study from Giambattista Lolli. This was created in 1763. This is the same person after whom the Lolli's mate is named. So this is white to play and win. Now, before we even calculate, we have to observe few things. Black is threatening mate in 1. So there is a double attack here and black is threatening mate in 1. Black's rook is undefended. So observation number 1 is black is threatening mate in 1. Second observation, his rook is undefended and his queen and rook are not coordinated. Our queen and rook is a little bit more coordinated, but his queen and rook is not coordinated. That's observation number 2. Black has a very dangerous passed pawn on e3. It will just queen in 2 moves. Observation number 3, and this pawn is currently pinned. This pawn cannot move because the queen will fall. Our rook is hanging, but currently it's pinned, so that's safe. But if the queen moves anywhere, then this rook will be hanging. Our rook controls the f file. The f file is controlled by our rook. Okay, so white doesn't have enough time to organize a mating attack because he cannot play a waiting move or a move that improves his position because black is threatening mate in 1. So white does whatever white has to do very quickly, and white has to play forcing moves. He cannot play rook e5 or rook d5 to be able to go like this because he doesn't have that time, right? Okay, so now we also see that the dark squares are weak. Okay, so now let's figure out what kind of plans. Before we even calculate variations, we have to figure out what could be some of the plans. So one plan number 1 would be we take this rook with check. Then we are up a whole rook and we will win. That's plan number 1. Plan number 2, we checkmate the black king. If it's possible to checkmate, we checkmate the black king. That's plan number 2. Plan number 3 is we somehow bring the queen here or here somewhere where it attacks the rook, it defends checkmate, and we move this rook somehow to attack the queen. So our rook will attack the queen, our queen will attack the rook, our queen will also defend checkmate. That looks like a very difficult thing to achieve because this rook on f1 is not defended. So if we take his rook, he will take our rook. But it could be a plan where our rook is attacking his queen and our queen is attacking his rook and our queen is defending the checkmate. That's plan number 3. So we have 2 to 3 plans in our minds. Now let's execute the most forcing one. Now there are certain moves that will come to your mind like rook f2. That rook, because this pawn is pinned, we can play rook f2 to defend checkmate, and then we figure out the checkmate later. Because after rook f2, he has to make a move. So that's one move that comes to my mind instantly. Now there is queen f6 check, there is queen e7 check, and yeah, these are the 2 checks in the position. There could be also rook f7 check, but that's not something that I want to calculate because after king takes f7, this lone queen cannot do anything, right? So I don't want to give my rook just like that. Now before I even calculate rook f2, this is not forcing, but queen f6 and queen e7 is forcing. And also on rook f2, he can take it. So if I play rook f2 thinking I'm defending checkmate and this pawn is pinned, no, it's not pinned. He will take it. You take the queen and then he will play rook f8. And now you are a queen, you have a queen up, but this queen has to come to f1 and now this queen is in prison. And he will simply move these pawns and he will eventually get a queen. So rook f2 although looks beautiful, but I will not even calculate because he can actually take it. So right now let's see, queen f6, king g8 only move, queen f7, king h8. Then we don't have a follow-up. We have to keep giving checks like this because we can't move the rook because he is threatening mate. So then queen f6, king g8, queen f7 is not working because he will go to king h8. Then queen f6, king g8. So that doesn't work. So the queen is never successful on f7 with a check. That we have found. So that then we will not even calculate in that direction because we have seen that the queen on f7 Giving a check doesn't do anything. Okay, so queen f6 check, king g8, queen e6 check, king h8, queen e5 check, king g8, and then queen takes rook with check. And then we are winning because we are a whole rook up. So when we give a check, his king will never go here and here. His king will never go to g8 and h8. If the king goes there, we are winning. So the only square where the king will go is h6. Which brings us to this point that we will see this triangle. So our queen has to coordinate this triangle and create a mating net. And his king will always dance like this: h6 g7, h6 g7, because h5 is covered by our rook, right? So queen f6 check, king h6, queen h4 check, king g7, queen d4 check, king h6, queen f4 check. Now from queen f4 check, this also pressures the rook. He will go to g7, but if we take his rook, he will take our rook. If we take his rook, then this pawn is no longer pinned and he will take our rook. So that doesn't help. So after queen f4 check, the king is on h6. The king goes to g7. We can give rook f7, but the king will simply go to g8, and then you don't have any more checks. Yes, you have a very active rook on f7. You have a very active queen on f4, but you are not threatening mate. He is threatening mate now, and you can take the rook, but then he will take your rook. So queen f4 check, king g7, and then rook f7 achieves nothing. So after queen f4 check, king g7, we can come to h2 and say we are defending mate, we are also pressuring your rook, and then we are saying okay fine, after queen f4 check, king g7, queen h2, now I'm going to move my rook to d5 or a5 and come like this. I have defended mate, but then there could be other complications with e2 and other stuff. There could be other complications. e2, and then you move your rook. He will give his rook. Check. Queen takes, king takes, and he will queen. Right. So there are, you don't have time to do all. You don't have time to bring the queen to h2 and rook to a5, and you don't have that time because his e pawn is queening. So let's calculate. Queen f6, king h6, queen h4, king g7, queen d4, queen d4, king h6, no, queen f6, king h6, queen h4, king g7, queen d4, king h6, queen f4, king g7. Now this is a critical moment. Queen is on f4, king is on g7, rook f7 is nothing. Queen takes b8 is nothing because he'll take your rook. Queen h2 is nothing because he will take, you will take, he will take, you will take, he will take, and then his e pawn will win. So queen is on f4, king is on h6. No, king is on g7. So we can give another check, queen e5 and king h6 and rook h5. King cannot take because queen supports the queen. G takes h5 and queen f6 is checkmate. So our idea number 2 is working. So let's calculate once more. Queen f6, king h6, queen h4, king g7, queen d4, king h6, queen f4, king g7, queen e5, king h6, rook h5, g takes h5, queen f6 is checkmate because this square there is a pawn. Our queen is here, his king is here, and that's checkmate. All right, so now let's move the pieces. Let's see our original creative move. Rook f2, he will take it. Queen takes c1, rook f8, queen f1, g5, h5, g5. You can also push. Your queen is never moving. There is no check, and he will start pushing, and it will not be possible to hold. I don't see. Next move is this. Right. So this is not worth calculating at all. This is nothing. So queen f6. If he goes to if he goes to g8, then queen e6, king h8, queen e5, king g8, queen b8 with check, king g7, queen e5, and then we save our rook. We are winning. So after queen f6, king g7 is king h6 is forced. Then queen h4, king g7. Now we complete the triangle. So we come to d4 with check. The idea is to come to e5 with another triangle. So queen d4 check, king h6, queen f4 check, king g7 and queen e5 check. King h6 is forced and then rook h5 check. And then g takes h5 and queen f6 is checkmate. So what did we do here? We completed one triangle. 1, 2, 3. One triangle. Then we completed the second triangle. 1, 1, 2, 3. Right? So let's see it. Queen f6, king h6, queen h4, king g7, queen d4. First triangulation completed. King h6, queen f4, king g7, queen e5. Second triangulation completed. Now king h6 is forced and now rook h5. The king cannot take, so he has to take with the pawn, and now this is checkmate.